Two voices, two destinies, and one story that has never been told in full. They stepped into the spotlight at the same moment, and from that day on, they became part of a phenomenon that reshaped pop culture. Harry Styles and Zayn Malik, names known and loved by millions across the globe. But behind the flashing lights, the roaring crowds, and the songs that conquered every continent lies a different truth, one of friendship, of trials, and perhaps something more, something never spoken aloud, but felt in every shared glance and unspoken word. Summer of 2010. Two young men with different dreams, different styles, yet the same burning desire to change their lives, step onto the stage of The X Factor. Harry, charismatic and open, ready for the spotlight. Zayn, reserved, mysterious, but with a voice that could cut through silence like a spark in the dark. When the producers brought them together into a single group, no one yet knew it would be the start of the most successful boy band of its time. From the very first rehearsals, there was a quiet but undeniable connection between them. In a crowded room, Harry's eyes would find Zayn in an instant. On stage, they complemented each other effortlessly, one reaching for the soaring high notes, the other grounding the melody, their voices weaving a harmony that became the band's signature. Behind the scenes, there was more than just work. There were long talks after practice, headphones passed back and forth, and inside jokes that belonged only to them. And though it seemed like nothing more than friendship at the time, in those small moments, there was something that couldn't be explained so easily. The world moved fast for the newly formed One Direction. In just months, they went from unknown contestants to the faces on magazine covers, the voices filling stadiums. Harry embraced the chaos, smiling easily for cameras, playing the role of the golden boy. Zayn, quieter in the spotlight, kept a certain distance. Yet when they were side by side, there was an ease in the way they existed together, a comfort that seemed to shield them from the noise. On stage, their chemistry was undeniable. Glances exchanged in the middle of songs, a shared grin after hitting a perfect harmony, subtle gestures that fans noticed but could never fully decode. Long nights on tour buses turned into shared playlists and whispered conversations that stretched until sunrise. In a whirlwind of fame, where every moment was documented and dissected, some of their moments remained theirs alone, private and untouchable. The cracks didn't appear all at once. They formed quietly, almost invisibly, in the small spaces between shows and interviews. During the Take Me Home tour, there were nights when Harry would be spotted laughing with crew members in hotel bars, while Zayn disappeared hours earlier, retreating to his room with only a sketch pad and his headphones. On stage, their harmonies were still flawless, but backstage cameras sometimes caught them standing apart during group conversations, their eyes meeting only briefly before looking away. In one interview in 2013, when asked about the future, Harry spoke eagerly about pushing boundaries and experimenting, while Zayn's answer was shorter, more guarded, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Tour buses became a mix of shared laughter and tense silences, Harry swapping stories at the front while Zayn sat in the back, sketching or staring out the window at passing city lights. Yet, even in the middle of these growing differences, there were moments when the old connection resurfaced, a reassuring pat on the shoulder after a rough performance, a quiet exchange of words before walking on stage. It was as if something unspoken tied them together, even as the pressures of fame slowly pulled them in different directions. March 25th, 2015, a date that would change everything. The news broke suddenly. In a short official statement posted online, Zayn Malik was leaving One Direction. For millions of fans, it was a shock. But for those inside the band, the signs had been there. In the days leading up to the announcement, Backstage whispers grew louder. Zayn had missed a few appearances, his seat on the tour bus often empty. That morning, the atmosphere was heavy. Harry arrived later than usual, his expression unreadable, and when the cameras caught the band walking to soundcheck, he glanced toward the spot where Zayn should have been. It was empty. In interviews given just hours later, Harry's words were calm, but his voice carried a weight, as if each syllable had to be measured. "We're still brothers," he said, his eyes flickering for a brief second before he forced a small smile. Behind the scenes, crew members recall seeing Harry alone in a corner of the dressing room that night, phone in hand, staring at the screen long after the others had left. The tour went on, the lights still blinding, the music still loud, but for Harry, there was a gap on stage that no one else could fill. A space he didn't step into, as if leaving it there was his own silent acknowledgement of what had been lost. Before the headlines, before the sudden announcement that would change everything, there was a time when Harry and Zayn moved through the chaos of fame almost as a unit. During the early tours, they were often seen slipping away from the rest of the band between rehearsals, walking side by side through quiet backstage corridors, speaking in low voices that cameras could never quite catch. In fan recordings from 2012, they are spotted at the back of an after-party, sitting close, heads tilted toward each other, as if the noise of the room didn't exist. In interviews, there were moments when one would answer a question meant for the other, a small smirk passing between them, like an inside joke no one else could understand. Zayn once said, "Harry's one of those people you can just sit with in silence, and it feels like you've said everything." Harry, in a radio interview the following year, described Zayn as the calm in the storm, without elaborating further, his voice softening on the words. There were nights on tour buses when the rest of the group was asleep, and the two of them stayed up, sharing music through one set of headphones, their laughter spilling into the dark as cities blurred past outside. These weren't the moments that made tabloid covers. They were too subtle, too quiet. But for those who paid attention, they hinted at a connection that went deeper than the polished image of the band, something that made the eventual distance between them all the more striking. After Zayn's departure, their worlds shifted overnight. Harry threw himself into the remainder of the tour, his energy on stage seemingly untouched. But offstage, there were subtle changes. In June 2015, just 3 months after the split, the press caught Harry leaving the same private studio in Los Angeles, where Zayn had been seen the day before. No official collaboration was announced, and both remained silent on the matter. Later that year, in a BBC Radio 1 interview, when asked if he'd spoken to Zayn, Harry paused, glanced down, and said simply, "I wish him well," before moving to the next question, his tone warm but cautious. In 2016, fans noticed that during a solo show in London, Harry wore a jacket almost identical to one Zayn had famously worn in 2013, sparking quiet speculation online. The following year, at the American Music Awards, cameras captured a brief moment backstage, Zayn, now fully solo, passing Harry in the hallway. They exchanged a quick handshake and a few words, both smiling in a way that felt less like casual politeness and more like the acknowledgement of a shared history. In 2019, Zayn surprised fans by liking a post on social media, featuring a clip of him and Harry performing together. During their early days, the like was gone within hours, but not before screenshots spread. Even as years passed, their names would occasionally surface together in headlines, not for scandal, but for moments like these, small, fleeting, but impossible to ignore. In the years after the split, the public glimpses of Harry and Zayn together became rare, but each sighting or reference carried weight. In late 2019, While promoting his album Fine Line, Harry appeared on a talk show and was asked to name one song from any artist he wished he had written. He paused, smiled faintly, and named Pillow Talk, Zayn's debut single. The host laughed, expecting a joke, but Harry only nodded, adding, "It's a great song." In early 2020, an anonymous source claimed the two had met briefly at a private party in London. No photos emerged, but fans noticed both had been tagged at the same location that night. In 2021, Zayn posted a short Instagram story of a vinyl spinning. The song playing in the background was "Sign of the Times." It was deleted within minutes, but screenshots spread quickly. Later that year, Harry was photographed in New York wearing a small silver ring shaped like a lightning bolt, eerily similar to one Zayn had worn during the Midnight Memories era. In 2023, a journalist asked Zayn if he'd ever collaborate with any of his former bandmates. His answer was careful but telling. "If the vibe's right, you never know." Harry? In a separate interview months later, when asked a similar question, gave almost the same reply, word for word. And then there are the unplanned moments, a brief glance across a crowded room at an industry gala, a shared laugh at an award show after the cameras cut away, a lyric that sounds a little too specific to be coincidence. They may walk separate paths now, but these fragments suggest that somewhere, quietly, a connection still lingers, hidden in the spaces between the public moments. Away from the shared stages, Harry and Zayn carved out identities that couldn't be more different, and yet, at times, they seemed to echo each other. Harry embraced a flamboyant, gender-fluid style, walking red carpets in sequin jumpsuits and pearl necklaces, becoming a face of Gucci and redefining what a male pop star could look like in the 2020s. He acted in films like Dunkirk and Don't Worry Darling, his roles sparking as much conversation as his music. He cultivated an image of openness, rarely confirming anything, but always leaving room for interpretation. Zayn, in contrast, built a quieter, more enigmatic world. His debut album, Mind of Mine, went to #1 in multiple countries, its R&B influence setting him apart from the pop sound of One Direction. He rarely toured, preferring studio work and sporadic public appearances. His artwork, tattoos, and occasional social media posts, often cryptic, sometimes deleted within hours, kept fans guessing. In 2018, Zayn surprised many by releasing a cover of the Elvis classic Can't Help Falling in Love, recorded in a single take at his home studio. Harry, months later, performed the same song live during a charity event. His rendition slower, more aching, and while neither mentioned the other, the coincidence didn't go unnoticed. They may have pursued different aesthetics, different rhythms, but both built careers on defying expectations and keeping a part of themselves just out of reach, a shared mystery that still connected them in the eyes of those who remembered where it all began. Those who worked close to the band often say the real story of Harry and Zayn wasn't written in the headlines, but in the quiet, unphotographed spaces between shows. A former tour assistant recalled how, during the 2013 Take Me Home tour, they would sometimes find Harry and Zayn in an empty rehearsal room after everyone else had left, playing guitar together, not rehearsing set lists, just drifting through chords, laughing when they forgot the words. Another crew member remembered a night in Tokyo when the group's schedules split, and Harry and Zayn ended up exploring the city alone, returning hours later with matching paper lanterns, a souvenir no one ever saw again. In the studio, producers noted their easy, dynamic Zayn, pushing Harry to try vocal runs outside his comfort zone, Harry coaxing Zayn into looser, more improvised harmonies. In one unreleased demo from 2014, their voices are layered in a way that's almost conversational, like two friends trading secrets in melody. Even small travel habits stood out. They often ended up next to each other on flights, Harry leaning into the aisle, Zayn with his head against the window, both wearing the same brand of worn-in boots they'd picked up on a shopping trip in LA. These details never made it into the glossy press kits, but for those who saw them up close, they told a different story. One of trust, of shared moments tucked into the relentless machine of fame, moments that now exist only in the memories of those who were there. While the official story stayed clean and minimal, the online narrative surrounding Harry and Zayn became something else entirely. On Tumblr threads, Reddit posts, and late-night Twitter discussions, fans pieced together fragments of interviews, concert footage, and even wardrobe choices, weaving them into theories that blurred the line between coincidence and intention. One of the earliest Zayn theories dates back to 2012, when during a live show, Harry was caught mouthing something to Zayn between verses, the audio too faint to hear. But slowed-down fan edits claimed it was, "I missed you." In 2014, a photo surfaced from a Paris hotel balcony, showing them standing close, away from the rest of the group. Nothing unusual, except that hours later, both appeared at soundcheck, wearing identical scarves. A detail fans insisted was no accident. More elaborate theories linked song lyrics across their solo careers. Zayn's "It's You" with its lines about "the way you see me," and Harry's "Sweet Creature," which fans claimed echoed the same imagery. There were even long breakdowns of their body language in interviews, how often Zayn would glance at Harry when he spoke, how Harry's posture seemed to shift subtly when Zayn was nearby. Most of these theories never left the online circles that birthed them, dismissed by some as overanalysis, treasured by others as part of a larger puzzle. Whether true or imagined, they became part of the mythology, a web of possibilities that kept the idea of Harry and Zayn alive long after the band was gone. Some moments never made it into mainstream coverage, but became staples of fan discussion. In 2012, during a flight delay in Sydney, a fan seated across from the group recalled how Harry and Zayn sat apart from the others, sharing one phone to watch a film, laughing quietly while the rest of the band dozed. In 2013, backstage at the MTV Awards, an unaired camera feed caught them in matching beanies, exchanging what looked like lyric ideas scribbled on a napkin. The clip surfaced years later in a leaked behind-the-scenes reel. During the Where We Are tour in 2014, crew members reported that Harry would sometimes join Zayn for late-night tea in the catering area, long after the rest had gone to bed, a habit they kept even on the most exhausting legs of the tour. In 2015 weeks before Zayn's departure, an audience member at a private pre-show soundcheck swore they saw Harry slip a folded piece of paper into Zayn's jacket before walking off stage. Its contents were never known. Years later, in 2017, during an interview for a fashion magazine, Harry was shown a series of random photographs and asked to describe the first memory they brought to mind. When presented with a picture of Marrakesh's Old Market, he simply smiled and said, "That was a good trip," a city where Zayn had been spotted just days before in the same year. Each of these moments, small and easily lost to time, has been kept alive in the quiet archives of fandom, where they are studied not as evidence, but as pieces of a bigger, still unfinished puzzle. Their paths have twisted and turned, sometimes crossing in the most unexpected ways, other times running in complete silence. From the noise of stadiums to the quiet of backstage corridors, from shared stages to separate worlds, Harry Styles and Zayn Malik have built lives apart, yet bound by something invisible, a thread woven through years of glances, words left unsaid, and moments too subtle for headlines. Fans keep the archive alive, dissecting interviews, watching for signs, holding on to the belief that some connections never truly fade. In the end, what remains is not a confession nor a denial, but a story suspended in midair, one that can shift with every new sighting, every lyric, every unguarded smile. Whether they ever stand side by side again or continue as parallel lines that never meet, the space between them will always hum with possibility. And perhaps, in that space, the real story lives waiting for its next chapter.